We hear the word big data everywhere today and we get confused. But to understand what big data is, we must first talk about what data is. Data is basically any piece of information. Now, this type of information gathering has been going on for a long time. For example, in 431, Sparta attacked Athens. By that time, Thucydides had become a great historian and wrote a lot about it. He writes that at Plataea, many of the Athenian supporters who were on the Athenian side were trapped and wanted to cross over one of the walls there. They had to measure the height of that wall to determine how high the ladder should be on the other side. He did a trick to measure the height of that wall. He asked many people to count how many bricks there are. The reason for this is that there were a lot of bushes on these bricks, so it was difficult to know how many bricks there are actually. The first thing they wanted to do was figure out the height of that wall. He thought that by multiplying the number of bricks and the width of each brick, we would know the height of the wall. Now, how many bricks are there? This is because the wall was so big, and it would be difficult to count every brick in every place. Therefore, several men were appointed for this work, and each counted the number of bricks in different places, and then these numbers were modulated. That is to say, some people think 10, some 15, some 10 again, some 20, 10, 12, etc. The number which occurs most frequently in it is called mode in statistics. He thought that most of the people think that there are so many bricks here. Now, if this number is multiplied by the width of the brick, then they thought that the height of that wall can be calculated. That was the thing. Of course, while going beyond the wall, he used the figure where the height was minimum, not the mode. But for all this, measurements data had to be collected. In short, the acquisition, collection, analysis, and use of data may in fact have begun at that time. But that is not true. This is because when the archaeologists researched the excavations, they realized that this practice of measuring and collecting data has been going on for a long time. The best example of this is an Ishango bone found in the Democratic Republic of Congo in 1950. After they thought about it, people began to wonder whether it was a calculating device, i.e. today's calculator, or a calendar from 20,000 years ago. There were some notches on that bone. Some thought that they were notches to hold the bones in place, but later it was realized that those notches were some marks made for measurement. After some time, another bone was found before it. 35,000 years ago, there was a bone called Lubombo bone in Swaziland. It was discovered in Swaziland in 1970. Even there, people got the idea that bones were used for measurements and calculations. So historians say that measuring something means collecting data of something since then. Now, although there is much debate as to whether this data was real or not, the only thing is true. That is, it is certain that data collection, in the sense that a census was taken in 3800 BC, must have officially started since then. People were recorded in that census, but at the same time honey and milk and many other things were recorded. So people started to calculate how much tax they have to pay. Ancient Egyptian churches also recorded such records on papyrus. We find long ago records on papyrus of the quantity of goods sent from one place to another. And it wasn't just limited to Europe and Africa. We see data like this being collected, recorded, and then used in the Inca civilization or many other ancient civilizations around the world. The singular form of the word data is datum. Data is a plural form. It is an earlier Latin word. The term is said to have been first used by an English cleric named Henry Hammond in the 17th century. He coined the phrase heap of data for the first time for the fact that we present many truths while debating about religion. But although this is the use of the word data, its real use was made by the great scientists of the 18th century. Scientists like Newton, Lavoisier, Priestley started using it in science. Later, mathematicians like Gauss and Laplace also started using data in a scientific way. Practically speaking, in 1854, when there was an epidemic of cholera, John Snow, a physician, began to write down and use the information, i.e. data, in London of how many people were affected by the epidemic and how many people died. John Snow went to people and tracked what water they were drinking and collected data about it. Then he realized that this disease was caused by water. A water pump on London's Broad Street was contaminated, and so he concluded that the disease was spreading from the data he had gathered from interviews and interrogations of people. It was only after this that researchers began to make extensive use of data to discover the causes of disease or to make predictions. And since then a new branch of science was born. Then in the census began to collect data about many things, such as birth dates, death dates, crimes, and many other types of information about the population began to be collected, and from there, data started to matter. In most countries, this data is collected every 10 years when there is a census. It is a very expensive and time-consuming process to go to every house in every place. So it is done every 10 years. Before the 19th century, such things as census etc. did not happen. Then the census began to collect data about the population on a large scale every 10 years. But how to analyze this data now? That means how many people there are in any area regarding many things: age, caste, religion, gender, education, language, ... closing parenthesis ... Governments want such classified data. How to classify it? That was the big question. Herman Hollerith used to work at the U.S. Census Bureau. He first came up with a punch card solution to these questions. Until then, only tallying machines were produced. Only for tallying addition-subtraction this machine was used. But Herman Hollerith made a breakthrough in 1890 when punch cards were used for the first time in the American census. So what used to take 8 years to process, tabulate the same data, get reports and categorize it, now takes only 1 year. After this success of Hollerith, Germany, Russia, Norway, Cuba and many countries of the world also started using this system. Hollerith later sold his company to IBM, and since then IBM Chi Computer Company grew bigger. A standard of this punch card was prepared in 1969. It is called American National Standard Institute, ANSI. Hollerith wanted a code or standard for punch cards. That is, on which card, where, if there is a hole, what does it indicate, what number or alphabet does it indicate? Because every time everyone punched the punch cards in their own way, there would be confusion. Hence, ANSI became a standard. Over time, of course, IBM. It became a very big company. IBM introduced mainframes for the first time. It was huge. Although mainframes were created before the 1960s, the 1960s is considered the decade of mainframes. Then in the 1970s, computers got smaller, cheaper but more powerful, and mini-computers were born. At that time, Digital Equipment Corporation was DEC, Data General was DG, Prime, Vang etc. were created. Although smaller in size than mainframes, they were quite powerful. They started being used as departmental computers of that time. That is, in every company, one for purchasing, one for inventory, one for production, one for accounting. Different computers were installed for different tasks, and those computers started talking to each other. But each computer used to have a different protocol for communicating, i.e. Digital Equipment Corporation, DEC, had a protocol called DECnet. IBM's SNA was also Data General's Zodiac protocol. Each such company had developed its own protocol for communication between two computers of the same type of its own company. But it was still not possible for computers from two different companies to communicate with each other. That was a big question. It was later solved by the Internet. After the mainframes of the 1960s and the mini-computers of the 1970s, personal computers arrived in the 1980s. Since then, computers have shrunk in size, data storage has increased, and all have come down in price, but their power has continued to increase. That means computer power doubles every 18 months, according to Moore's law. That's because the size of the transistor, which is the most important part of a computer chip, kept getting smaller and smaller. That's why even today, we get such a large memory in very small sizes, and its power increases. The price also decreases. However, computers started to be used everywhere in all fields, and due to this, data in all fields started to accumulate, be it payroll, financial system, inventory control, entertainment, education, health. Computers spread in all these fields, but personal computers increased people's trust in computers. Computers were not very easy to use. Before 1980, people were still afraid of computers. Only computer programmers or specialist groups could use computers. Multimedia arrived in the personal computer. That is, we started to be able to store all the 4 data formats of text, audio, video, and photograph in the computer in the form of zeros and ones. Then it started to be able to be transmitted anywhere. It started to be able to send from one place to another, and it started to be deleted or changed. This is called multimedia. At the same time, colors filled in personal computers. Then came the graphical user interface, GUI. All the operations that we do today using the mouse do not have to be done like before. Earlier, there was only one keyboard. Now, with the advent of the mouse and the creation of the graphical user interface, it became much easier for people to use computers. So common people believed in computers. Similarly, The power of computers increased, the size decreased, the price gradually decreased, and due to this, computers flourished in all fields. In the 80s, the 1980s is considered the decade of personal computers and the computer revolution. So the data became digitized on a very large scale, and it started to be shared everywhere. The Internet came in the 1990s. In fact, the Internet began with Europanet in the 1960s-70s. ARPANET started with 4 computers, but it grew to connect billions of computers from millions of networks around the world. At the very beginning, the computers that were connected in a building or company were called Local Area Network, LAN. If computers in a city are connected, it is called a Metropolitan Area Network, MAN. And if computers in a country, different provinces and several countries are connected, it is called a Wide Area Network, WAN. Even if all these computers have started to be connected to each other, but they are of different makes, different companies, or computers with different protocols, how will they still be connected to each other? How to communicate between them? It was still unknown. It was achieved by the Internet. The protocol that made it possible is called TCP/IP. The TCP/IP protocol is the reason we send email today. It goes to New York from Pune or Mumbai. It traverses many different types of networks, such as multiple networks, local area networks, MONTs and VANs. How your message gets from one end to another through networks with so many different protocols is a puzzle. TCP/IP solved this, so the Internet stands on him today. Due to this Internet, huge amount of data has increased worldwide. World Wide Web, WWW, was created by Tim Berners-Lee on the Internet. After that, web pages were created in the World Wide Web. Many websites were created and huge amount of data was created. People started using data. After the year 2000 came the age of mobile. After mobile, data started to grow at a huge speed. But data didn't just increase as mobiles connected to the Internet. So after mobile came SMS, followed by WhatsApp chats. Then came Facebook. Then people started using search engines like Google, posted on Facebook, posted videos on it, took photos on it, and at the same time people started buying things on Amazon and other websites. All this resulted in huge amount of data. This created a deluge of data till 2010 itself. After that, in the year 2011, there was an announcement of Industry 4.0. Although there are many technologies such as artificial intelligence, Internet of Things, even big data, is a very important part of the industry. Is a 4.0. Big data means a very large amount of data, but only large amounts of data are not a part of big data. We will see that there are many more types. In the year 1989, World Wide Web started on the Internet, and after that many websites were created on the Internet. Many people started uploading data on every website. The information of the company, the information of the people in the company, the information of the company's products, everything started to be loaded on it. So huge amount of data started to be generated, which is used in business. It is mostly structured data. Data in Excel or spreadsheets is structured. It consists of rows and columns. Generally, 20% of the data we have accumulated till date is structured data, and 80% is unstructured. Social media and mobile computing are major drivers of unstructured data generation. These things were created after about 2,000 years. The data that existed in the mid-1990s was largely structured. Gradually, it was becoming unstructured, because SMS etc. started in this decade. If I send an SMS to someone, there is no structure to it. Here in structured data like records, we know that the employee number is 6 digits, the employee name is 40 characters only, and we also know their place in the record. But there is no such structure in the SMS message, so it is called unstructured data. Later, social media such as Facebook and WhatsApp were created. People started writing blogs etc. in mobile and on Internet. There people started writing in natural languages like Marathi and English. For example, I am going to Pune today, and there I am going to buy such and such things, and after that I will go to Nashik. What will determine the structure in all these? That means there are no data items. Their lengths etc. Processing is easy on structured data. But here in unstructured data it is extremely difficult to find structure in what is spoken in natural language.